Hey there everybody, it's Wayne D. Welcome to the website, WayneD.com. Hope you're enjoying the content. We consider this a site for serious golfers, and you might not recognize the guy that I've got on the screen here. He does not have any status on the PGA Tour, but he pre-qualified and qualified on a 4-spotter for the Sanderson Farms tournament and finished in a tie for 4th and made $177,000. The guy's name is Scott Strohmeyer. He was pivotal on he was a senior on the Alabama National Championship team in 2013, and since then he's just been struggling to find some status. So he got a good head start with a nice finish. He went to Vegas the next week, because when you finish in the top 10 you get to play the next week, and unfortunately shot a pair of 74s and missed the cut, which is big. You know, if you get an opportunity like that, you got to really take advantage and parlay it. But he did real nicely in this tournament. So one of the more astounding stats, and when he was on the screen they were talking about it all the time, was his distance. His driving distance was off the charts. He was averaging around 320 yards, led the field, and played well in pretty much all other respects. So I thought we'd take a look at his swing, because one of the things that really stood out to me and has been standing out is the power generated by some of these guys with swings that are anything but long. So let's watch. It's standard, pretty much standard setup. We'll see a little trigger action with the legs. You'll see that all the time. Everybody, good athletes, are always going to want to move into a movement, and they do it a lot of times with an opposite movement. So you see the right knee. We don't have a face-on view of him, but you'll see the right knee kick sort of inward. So that counter rotates the hips. This is something that you'll see McIlroy do. So in counter rotating the hips, meaning that the hips are actually moving in this direction, and then the turn begins to go back in this direction, creating additional wind up early. So if you watch the first movement of the hands and arms against the hips, those hips are still turned to the left as the upper trunk starts the club away. So that's again instantly creating more torque in the midsection up here, because the hips are resisting the upper body movement. It's subtle, but it does create a lot of stretch early in the swing. So you can see as he gets the club to P2 there, it's right nicely on plane, very nice. Face is pretty neutral, no big opening of the face, but it's not shut, and you can see how little hip turn he has so far. So as he gets to left arm parallel, you can see his elbows for the most part are fairly level. Their right might be a little bit more in front of him, or a little bit lower there. But when we look at the iron swing from a better angle, this one's pretty much right down the line. When you look at his right arm, you can see that he's got one of the kind of a medium right arm in the 60s there. Remember that, you know, Hogan was more, his elbow was more over here, and he was in the sort of in the mid 50s. And then if you look at a Tiger type swing, or some of the other guys, you'll see an arm more in the 70s and 80s, so the elbow would be even more pinched in front this way. So I kind of like that. I like that at left arm parallel. But watch as he gets to the top. I mean, this thing really, he barely call that a three-quarter swing. So the left wrist being fairly flat there is probably hindering a little bit of the wrist cock factor, but lengthwise you would be like, wow, you know, wouldn't he hit it further if he took it all the way back to parallel? And the answer to that is obviously no. If you think of Patrick Rogers, John Rahm, you know, there's so many guys now, Tony Finau, that have these short-ish looking swings and just produce massive amounts of power, and most of it is coming from unloading efficiently and retaining long time in the downswing. So when you watch when he comes down, watch the hands. Look how long this thing is delayed and how much palm reflection he has in that left wrist all the way into impact there. Look at that. Now again, so I was reading a little bit about his college career, and he got better as he went along, and he won the regional in 2013. And the coach was interviewed, and he said, you know, he hits it so far, he has a tendency to not control it, but as he got older, he got a little more control of the ball. But you can see why this might be problematic as far as ball control here, because what I see here, you know, pretty much of a flawless pivot movement. You can see the nice dig in transition there as he loads down and starts that right hip, and then immediately is clearing hard on the left. You don't really see any kind of push into the front of that left foot. So I really like that. See that left knee clear in a good timely fashion, and the shaft appears to be nicely in front of him and above the forearm. But as he delays and delays and delays, when he hits the ball, if you look at where the hands are, you can see how high that's going to come in as far as the shaft angle. And when we go back to address and we see where this is, now these lines aren't exact, camera's moving around a little bit, but you can see the huge discrepancy between the original shaft plane and when he hits the ball. So with all that delay, you might guess that the club would be a little bit behind his hands in here and coming from in to out, especially with the driver as this thing continues to delay. Can't see it here, which is unfortunate, but instead of the club head being, you know, out on his hands here, it's probably more back a little bit more to the inside. So you can kind of get a little, there's a little picture of the club head. You get a little, you get an idea where that thing is coming from. But so he could hit it like crazy, rocking it out there a huge distance. But I would say that over delay might cause some club face issues as far as rate of closure. So let's watch it. Driver swing again at full speed here. So just another 6'3", probably weighs, you know, 200, 210. Just one of these big sort of basketball player, football player looking guys. Just produces a tremendous amount of speed. But I really like the way the right arm is moving there. You can see it drive in, elbow moving this way. So what I would probably like to see, you know, if I was teaching him a little bit, I'd probably have him See if at the end of this backswing, if he could open the face, continue to open it a little more, and get it to point a little bit more to the left. So when he came down, he'd have the shaft a little bit flatter a little earlier, and then he could spend more time. So it's kind of, it's a little bit on the steep side early in the downswing, and then with all that drag it flattens late, and that to me makes it come from in to out a little bit more. Certainly helps him make great contact, but again, ball control might be an issue. So again, I might have him point it to the left a little bit, flatten it, and then concentrate more on exiting left. So you can see that's pretty much out in front of him there. And if you're going to be that late, you're going to have full extension out there, but I'd rather see that thing move around to the left a little bit more. But anyway, very interesting looking golf swing. I thought that would be cool to look at a different guy than the normal players that we usually look at. So there's Scott Strohmeyer, and as I always do, I just always wish these guys the best, because you know how hard they work trying to get out there.